We head now to Perth, where a 7-month-old baby is dead after a series of trips to hospitals, and a medical centre saw him repeatedly being dosed with Pamol or Panadol and sent home. The baby was Malakai Matui Paraoni. If you think that sounds like a Māori name, you're right. Malakai's dad, Te Kepa, is a New Zealander, now living in Western Australia. Malakai became very sick, a temperature, an aching body, limbs very sore to touch, and as he became more sick, his skin began to turn red and then purple. In the course of this progression, Malakai's dad, Te Kepa, and mum Nicole took him to 2 separate hospitals, including Princess Margaret Hospital for Children, PMH. Both hospitals used Panadol to treat Malakai for a high temperature, then sent him home.
So we went home, then we got home at about 5 o'clock in the morning. Then 11:30 that morning, I ended up bringing an ambulance because he didn't get any better. He was actually gotten worse. So I gave him some Panadol as well. In the ambulance got there at 11:30. In the ambulance, he had a high heart rate, a temperature, slow movement, so sore joints, the rash. So when we eventually were seen, this was at PMH, I asked the ambulance driver to take my son to PMH, which is a children's hospital, which specialises in sick children, because Midland the night before said they didn't know what to do with Malakai. So then I said take him to PMH. When he was seen in a toilet, and there was a piece of foam put on a countertop. He was laid on that. He was assessed. He then started having convulsions and vomiting. They gave him Panadol, said it was a popped elbow. He was screaming in pain when they were moving his elbow, but obviously that was sore joints from meningococcal. Anyway, they said his heart rate was 190. They needed it to be 120 before they would allow him to go home. So they found us a bed, put him on the bed, gave him a dose of Nurofen because his heart rate and temperature were still up.
And then they were sent home, the family was sent home. That's Nicole, Malakai's mum. Now, Nicole, Te Kepa, and Nicole's mum became more and more worried. And Nicole's mum took Malakai back to the local hospital. This time a doctor became seriously concerned, and Nicole picks up what happened next.
And he was transported up to, via ambulance police escort, back to PMH, where he started the fight for his life. They put him on life support and he died the next day.
So, Nicole, by this stage, you had been to hospital 3 times and a medical centre once, is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
And every time there was either confusion or a misdiagnosis, so they completely missed what was going on with Malakai.
That is correct.
And you knew as mum that there was something wrong, which is why you kept going back. You called the ambulance, you insisted on someone taking you seriously, but you were given Panadol and Nurofen and sent away.
Yep, each time. Yep.
And so, forgive such a terribly blunt question, because this is a heartbreaking story, but do you know what Malakai died of yet?
We don't. There's been a lot of messing around with his cause of death because the hospital obviously know they have made a huge mistake.
So no one's come to you and said this is what your little boy died of?
When they sat me and Kepa in a room and told us he had meningococcal, this is why he was on life support. So when they sat me and Kepa down and said it was meningococcal, I said, well, if he was that sick and he has meningococcal, why did you send us away from the hospital? And when I got an ambulance, they refused to comment on that situation.
And Nicole, have you any idea why you and Kepa have been treated like this? Kepa is sitting beside you, I know, and whilst you're talking, Kepa is a Kiwi, right?
That's correct.
Right, John.
And do you guys have any idea whatsoever why you've been treated like this?
I don't have a clue at all, John. I don't have a clue at all. All I know is that something dodgy is going on.
For people listening to this, because As parents, it's hard to see what you could have done that you didn't do. You went to hospital 3 times, you called an ambulance, you went to a medical centre, you begged and pleaded for people to take you seriously and to give Malachi the appropriate treatment. What do you say to parents who have a sense that the hospital isn't getting it right, that their child is more sick than the hospital is admitting?
If I could turn back time, I wouldn't have left. I want mothers to. I don't want mothers to do it anymore, because mothers do everything they can for their kids. Mothers know when their kids aren't well. If anything, what I want from this is for doctors to listen to mothers. They're not just an over-exaggerating, worried mother. If they're going to a hospital 3 times, if they're ringing an ambulance, keep a baby in hospital for observation at least. A 7-month-old can't talk. I don't understand why my 7-month-old baby, who had a temperature, a rash, a high heart rate, wasn't at least kept in for observation.
That's Nicole, Malachi's mum. Now, this does seem extraordinary to us. We wanted to talk to both hospitals involved, particularly Princess Margaret Children's Hospital. Neither of them will respond to us in any way, shape or form. However, we have just received a media release which has come out from the Australasian College for Emergency Medicine, ACEM. It's headlined West Australian Emergency Departments in Crisis. It talks of gridlock and inability to cope with the challenges that the emergency departments are facing and much more. So we will go back and try and understand why Malachi received this kind of treatment and what exactly went on. Malachi's dad, of course, Te Kepa, is New Zealander.